The only time I think it's really acceptable for people to get mad at artwork, which I'm saying with air quotes, and I'll explain why in a bit. But the only time I think it's really acceptable for anyone to be mad about a piece of art or a piece of content based on its quality, quote unquote. I might not explain why I put quotes around that in this recording. But the only time I think that's acceptable is when the people who are mad about it have paid for it. Because at that point, it is not merely a piece of art, but it is a product, which is why I actually prefer on this subject to refer to it as content. But if I just said content, I don't know. I feel like that could mix up a lot of non-art things. I'm particularly more concerned with the artistic end of the content spectrum here. Maybe I should explain why I put quality in air quotes. Because I feel like if we just focus on the product aspect, it's kind of self-explanatory. Like, you paid money for something and it wasn't what you expected it to be. And it wasn't what you think it was worth as far as what you paid. Don't think I have to explain to anybody why it's fair to be upset about that. But, what's the implication? What am I allowing this as an exception to? And I think it's the idea of trying to hold, content creators to account based purely on quality. I don't believe in artistic quality. I don't think art requires skill from its creator. A 4-year-old can doodle on a napkin with a crayon, and that would be art. That would be every bit a piece of art as, the Mona Lisa. Wish I could have a less generic example. Because it's not really about any spectators necessarily, or at least I don't think they should be prioritized to the point that we are validating art based on how many people like it, I think art should first and foremost be considered something of the artists, in a way. Now, I think the relationship between the artist and the art is more important than the relationship between the artist, between the art and the consumer. I mean, of course, that kind of varies. It kind of depends on context, but I think when it just comes to the basic fundamental question, is this art? Does this deserve to exist? I think in answering that question, it's always more, because I think it is, I guess, the artist's intention that matters the most. Did they intend to create art? If so, then what they made was art. And I think when you try to reduce art to how it affects people besides the artist, I think it really degrades the concept, It also, I think, puts the artist in a pretty precarious position where it's they have, on some level, they have to please people or they're not really considered a legitimate artist, And I really don't like that, I think the artist's expression, however they choose to express it, even if no one else likes it or gets it, is valid. And if a piece of content is made that nobody likes except the creator, I do think the creator at least should like the content. Otherwise, you just have this is why past a certain point, I don't think a lot of focus grouped corporate trying to get the lowest common denominator sort of shit. I don't think that can be considered art past a certain point. Not any more than propaganda. Not any more than propaganda can be considered art. And honestly, even then, at least you can assume the propagandist believes in the message they're trying to send. These fucking corporate focus grouped, market trend chasers. They don't even believe in or care about what they're making. They just believe in the money that it could get them. But I digress. So keep in mind what I said at the beginning of this about people having the right to criticize content that they've paid for. That is specifically in regards to its quality, or I guess, the arbitrary standards by which we determine a piece of content to have been made skillfully or with impact. Because when you're charging money for your art, then you are promising an experience that's worth the money. Does this apply to, say, if a patron had moral objections to a piece of art? I don't think so. And when you hear that, you might think, oh, are you saying that content is never above moral scrutiny? Well, no, not necessarily. In fact, I'd argue I'm actually saying the opposite. What I'm saying is you don't need to buy, say, a copy of the Turner Diaries, even though I would consider that more a form of propaganda than true art. Nevertheless, you don't need to buy it and read it all the way through to have the right to say that it is genocidal, racist garbage. And I suppose in more toned down, more authentically artistic situations, you don't need to have purchased, the DVD set of like an anime to talk about, say how that particular anime might have some misogynistic or rape culture biases baked into its premise or its story, or the logic of its world. I don't think that has to be the same thing as saying everybody who likes this anime hates women and thinks rape is cool, and therefore we should kill them, and they don't deserve to live, and the studio that made the anime should be burned down. To summarize, complaints about quality, quote unquote, are only valid if you paid for the content or contributed to its creation in some kind of way. Moral critiques of a piece of art or a piece of content, on the other hand, you can just make those whenever. Though it would be nice if everybody was fair, accurate, and proportionate in their critiques of media.